I think the biggest thing that we offer is we are the #1 university in the state for upward mobility. What we do is we actually recruit students. We're 51% BIPOC. We are 49% Pell. And this is something that I'm really, really proud of, is we get students into St. Kate's. They will major in a health science major or a nursing major. And then when they graduate, they will go off and make a lot more money than what they were, than even what their family was making before they came to St. Kate's, so that upward mobility is real. And then they go back to their communities and they help their communities. Especially in the health science and nursing fields, because they feel so passionate that maybe they don't have the same access that other communities do. So it's really integral to everything that we do at St. Kate's, is knowing that we are literally, taking people who might be in poverty. Our Pell rate is really high, and setting them up for success in this world, and then again going back to their community. Another piece I think that is just phenomenal is that we were just ranked by Newsweek as being the top 3, like the #3 university for women. Not just women universities, right, but like literally the universities for women in the entire country. So we focus on leadership, and we focus on just developing out every woman as a whole in our college for women. And that those are the pieces that are most important to me as I'm helping to recruit and retain these students.
I love that. And I loved what you mentioned. I actually had a leader, Ethan from Hartford, kind of mentioned fertilizing the future, right? And it's exactly what you just kind of mentioned, taking individuals that may have lived through abuse or that family instability and really come out on the other side, rewriting their story. Like, how amazing is that? And I know it's probably like that weight on your shoulders, realizing that when people come to university, we want them to see the other side. We want them to go back and break the cycles that are happening. So fertilizing the future. When he told me that, I'm like, that's exactly what we're doing.
I love that. I love that. And I will say that I've been at St. Kate's for almost 4 years now. And one of the very cool things about that, when you talk about fertilizing the future, is now we're starting to see a lot of their sisters. So a lot of our current students or our graduates, now their sisters are coming up, and they want the same experience that their older sister had. So it's really cool to see that, it's in the family now. They know the expectations and the growth that they're going to receive at St. Kate's. The great outcomes.
I love that. Yeah. So 4 years, did you come from you said you were just in marketing, right? What do you feel was different going from, were you in the for-profit to nonprofit? Is that what it
I've
was?
done everything. So I've worked in universities. I've worked at other universities. I've worked in ed tech, and I've also worked in for-profit B2B spaces too. Yeah.
Which I'm guessing you enjoy this one, but what does everyone, I feel like everything you do has to teach you something, right? There's always what's in it for me. What am I learning here? What are some of the things that you learned that you were able to bring to St. Kate that really levels you up?
I think higher ed in general, especially in the marketing space, isn't as what's the word I'm looking for? It hasn't caught up yet to, I think, the regular for-profit world, the direct-to-consumer marketing, the gamification of marketing plans, things of that nature. And so what I'm able to bring to St. Kate's is that for-profit world of how are we going to get from A to B, and it's not going to just be through email campaigns. It's not going to be just through text. We have to think differently about these campaigns that we're pushing out. And again, thinking about it in that, kind of whole lifestyle or life cycle of campaigns that we're pushing out. So we literally started looking at top to bottom funnel. It's no longer about buying lists, right? I mean, you can buy the lists all you want, but at the end of the day, how are you going to convert them? The personalization is so key to converting these students. It doesn't matter if they're a college for adults that graduate or a college for women student. So making sure that we put those personalization pieces in there, making sure that, we're reaching out to the right candidate at the right time of where they're at, and really pushing messaging based on their motivations. So our college for adults, those students are much more about time and money. I mean, they're 35 years old, they want to finish their bachelor's degree, but they also have, 3 kids at home and a full-time job. So how do we get them to finally make that decision to come back to school, knowing that, quite honestly, they're going to get their kids' hockey schedule and then all of a sudden be like, oh no, that I can't do this anymore. So how do you coach them through all those pieces that people in higher ed, I don't think, recognize as much as they should, as those outside challenges of the adult learner. So I think, just bringing that kind of outside knowledge of how for-profits work has been really beneficial to St. Kate's. Just like I said, looking through the top to bottom funnel and making sure that we're, communicating to them everything that they need and solving their problems for them up front.
I love that sometimes when people come from the outside, it really just beneficial for everyone because you get to see things from a different lens. I was talking to another leader and he was mentioning, he's like, man, a lot of it is just common
It
sense,
is.
when you think about it, and he had no background, just like you in this role. He was a history major, but he's like, when he fit in, he just realized it was just common sense. Like, we really got to just think like our students. And you've done that so good. Not only have you done that, you really pivoted for what's to come because we're in this time where enrollment cliff is happening,
Yep.
right? A lot of people are just not
Yep.
signing up for whatever reasons. But I spoke to you, you said you were preparing for that pivot for like 3 years
Mhm.
now. What does that actually look like and mean to you? What does preparing for a pivot
Yeah,
look
I
like?
mean, it's a supply and demand issue. It's a classic economics issue, right? There's
Mhm.
not as much demand as there is supply. And so, what we've been able to do is really kind of reconstruct our brand through the lens of lead generation, direct admission, making sure that our students understand what they're getting into when they come to college. And we're really doubling down on our health science and our nursing programs because we know that that is going to be the at St. Kate's. This is where our students get the largest outcomes. This is where they grow the most. This is where they're going to graduate and get really high salaries off of the bat. So we've been able to focus on just basically recruiting the right student too. We look at data every single day. So we have a couple of different vendors that we have multiple dashboards with that we can see exactly, okay, where do we need to follow up with the students? What is their GPA? What is their, what
Yeah.
is their family income? Things of that nature that we can download then those lists and say, okay, we're behind on this segment of population. We're behind, we're ahead. What does it look like geographically as well? So we're kind of able to weed through student populations and focus on the high intent learners that we know are going to be able to convert. And it gives us a stronger it gives us a stronger relationship with them as well. So then they convert at a higher rate.
If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you.
It is so important. I don't think people realize it. Like you have, especially nowadays, like you got to be looking at data if you think you're going to move forward, right? And that's all data, not
Mm-hmm.
just data in the school, but what's happening in our country. I mean, I think I told you last time there's 7 schools that have closed down here in Orlando. Like definitely seeing it across, and I didn't even realize it. Start talking until I start talking to people in the higher ed. Like, wait a minute, this is getting crazy. Like I knew about the baby boomers and how many people are going to be over the 65, then under 18 or something
Yeah.
like that. But now we're really feeling it into the schools, and we're getting people to become an
Mm-hmm.
influencer, look at trades. what information do we give them? One of the things I heard is like if we let them know the ROI, right? The investment of going to
Hmm.
school with 3 times, you mentioned that, but investment in a $28,000 car or whatever that looked like, you lose value as soon as you come off
Yeah.
the lot, right? Like the investment, do you think that we do a good job just kind of giving it from that perspective of the ROI
We
perspective?
try at St. Kate's. I mean, that it is all outcomes based. That is basically our entire marketing plan. Is we want to show them that you're going to graduate, you're going to get a job, you're going to earn money, and that I mean that's the goal of going to college. Quite honestly, and that's why we earn the number one upward mobility in the state of Minnesota for our university. So yes, absolutely. I think long gone are the days where students, and you see it everywhere throughout the entire country. Again, going back
Right.
to the supply and demand, right? You see students whose parents, if we're talking just traditional undergraduate students, parents don't want their kid to go into debt. They don't want them to graduate with kind of a degree that they deem as unworthy, if that makes any sense. They want their child to have a very direct outcome. If they're going to be investing this kind of money, they want to see an ROI. I think one of the things that we do, you talked about influencers, and we have influencers all over the place. Like we have our current student population, we have our alumni population. We post stories all the time about how our alumni is helping our current students. So I think it's really important for people to see that not only are you going to get not only are you going to have a solid outcome from getting a college degree, but you're also going to set yourself up for success with our networking. And I think that is something that people don't necessarily think as much as they should about. But your alumni, I mean,
Yeah.
if you think about people who are just so passionate about their university and what they experience at their university, they just want everybody else to have that same experience. And so that
Yep.
networking piece again is so crucial. Being able for us, or I think another a point of distinction with St. Kate's is that we actually set them up for their clinicals. So our students don't have to find their own clinicals, which is pretty phenomenal.
That's good.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
again, just knowing that the, when they're graduating, they're going to have a job. And that it's, especially in the health science or nursing field. Whereas I think the news is basically saying, you know, the unemployment rate for recent grads is so high. But if you choose a major that there's going to be a solid outcome, that's what parents want to know, and that's what they want to see is that return on investment.
You mentioned parent. You think parents nowadays are more involved in the decision making for students, and how are we communicating with them? Because I feel like, let's be honest, without that parent, we're probably not really getting them into the schools that we need
Yeah,
to.
no, parents are, I mean, we've seen everything. Now we call them, lawnmower parents, basically, where they're mowing the path for their child, and their child just kind of
Yeah.
follows, behind. But I think, one of the interesting kind of pieces of that at St. Kate's is that because we have such a high Pell rate, and we actually have a high immigration rate as well. Immigrant students. There are parents that don't speak English, and so students are navigating this on their own. And that's one of the things that we do really, really well at St. Kate's is we kind of hold their hand and we help them get through it. I mean, if you're a good student, there's no reason why you shouldn't be going off to
Yep.
college, right? So we walk them through their financial aid packaging. It literally is just kind of this hand holding experience for them of here's your financial aid package, here are the classes that you're going to have to take, and literally lining it up for them so that they have a good understanding of what it means to go to college. Because I think that's one of the challenges that we can face is with that high Pell rate is they're first gen students. And so they don't have their parents to rely on what was their experience and how am I going to get through this? How do I fill out a FAFSA? Oh my gosh. So we spend a lot of time making sure that our students understand what is necessary and how they're going to kind of create their path to get to college and, helping them any way that we possibly can.
I love this. I love that you are so just involved. I mean, from the perspective of marketing, I think there's so much from the marketing when you understand data. I think that's what really helps you out is understanding data. Anybody that's in a marketing space understands data, data flywheel, understand how that
Yeah.
works and how that operates. And St. Kate being a 135-year-old, right? Is it
Uh,
135-year-old
well,
university?
1905. So, I mean, 100,
Yeah, yeah.
120-ish. Yeah.
So yeah, up there,
Yeah.
right? And you're running this enrollment institution. How do you feel personally knowing that it all kind of relies on you? You're that wheel that brings these kids in and keeps them in.
Well,
Is that pressure?
it's a ton of pressure, quite honestly, especially when you think of how many universities are closing down. I mean, I think the last average was one a week, across the country, right? So it is a
Really?
ton of pressure, but I have to tell you, my team
Wow.
is phenomenal. I have an incredible team from my director of marketing to my director of admissions in our College for Women. And then also our institutional research people are amazing. I could go throughout everybody, but I've got operational managers in our College for Adults and our graduate programs. I think if it wasn't for them, we would not be this successful. Everybody brings ideas to the table. We all decide, okay, well, what are we going to do and how are we going to move forward? And at the end of the day, yeah, I'm the one who has to make the end decision of where our budget goes and how we're going to allocate. And luckily, I also have great vendors in that space that provide any additional knowledge that I'm going to need to make those decisions. But the team is amazing. So it's not me, it's them, and they're the ones who are on the ground doing all this work. I'm just in the background, basically saying, okay, where are we going to spend our money now?
I mean, you're in the background because you mentioned earlier you had really good mentors and leaders that were pouring into you. What was those leaders and mentors? What are some of the things that you still resonate with that they've taught you?
I think integrity is one of those pieces that will just constantly flow through everything that we do. Um, Being honest. I'm a Gen Xer, and I will tell you that it can be hard to have hard conversations with other generations for fear of you know it's hard to take constructive criticism, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You have to, especially in higher education and especially in leadership, you have to develop a hard shell. You really do. If you don't, then I think that constructive criticism just kind of makes you wilt instead of taking it and saying, you know what, you're right. I think we can move in this direction instead. Or maybe I didn't handle that in the right way. So just building up a really hard kind of attitude of, you know what, I know this is a direction we need to go in. How do I get my team on board? And hopefully, at the end of the day, I have listened to all of their concerns and taken them all into consideration before we do so, make those decisions. But I think, I mean, I've had some really good mentors in my life, and um, I think listening and those skills are probably the biggest pieces. Just making sure that I don't operate in a bubble, and I
Yeah.
bring people in that need to be brought into the conversation.
Making space at the table is what you're
You
doing.
have to.
Somebody made space for you, and now you're making space for the next person, right?
Absolutely, you got it. You got it.
I love it. Talking to our higher ed leaders that are listening right now, who is feeling the pressure of this moment and wondering if the mission is still worth fighting for, what do you say directly to them?
Oh my gosh, every single day I see the looks on our students' faces, and they're going off to their classes, or just I volunteer at commencement every single year. I volunteer at graduation every single year because I want to see them walk across that stage. It is 4 years of the best years of your life, and being able to convince those students, those prospective students, of that. It's really truly a mission driven position. This is not, I'm going to go market the next, blow dryer or makeup product or something like that. This is truly mission driven. And if you're not behind the mission of basically, lifting people up and getting them the education that they need to go off and do amazing things, then find another job, because it's stressful enough. But to see the outcome, to see what you've helped to create, is a pretty amazing thing.
I love it. And how about to our young woman who has never even heard of St. Kate's to now? What's waiting for them?
Oh my gosh, you're coming into an incredibly thoughtful community, community of female leaders who want absolutely nothing more than to raise you up and make sure that you're not falling behind. It's not competitive at St. Kate's. I think that's the biggest thing in the entire world, is that you're not competing with your peers and your colleagues. You are literally coming together. You're making sure that everybody is successful, and everybody brings talents to the table, and it's just been really cool to see all of that kind of mold together, all the different talents.
A big sisterhood
It
of
really truly
diversity.
is. It really truly is. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Kate, where can people find, I said Kate. You got me over here thinking Kate of the school now. Lauren, where do we find more information? What is the URL? I'm going to imagine we mentioned socials. What is the
Yeah,
socials?
so stkate.edu, and if you just look us up on Instagram, Facebook, it's all St. Kate. So we're known as Katie's, or the graduates are known as Katie's. And yeah, if you just look us up on St. Catherine University, you'll find us anywhere.
I love it. And is there any other things you want to leave the people with on information or things that St. Kate could do for them, or anything you just want to leave off
Yeah,
with?
I just think at the end of the day, coming to a female university is something very, very special. We are Catholic, but we're also very intentional about inclusion of many other religions, any religion, quite honestly. And so just make sure, as you're looking through your universities, you don't cross a university off just simply because they are a women-driven university.
I love it. Well, guys, if you guys are still watching, this has been Lauren. Such a phenomenal conversation. We definitely thank you so much for having this, taking the time and doing this, and just for the work that you do. Especially, I love that you come from marketing and you went into enrollment, because I can believe that you just bring so much value to the organization. In 4 years, you continue to just every single year grow. So that obviously there's value to that as well. So for anyone that is also looking forward to maybe having a conversation, are you on LinkedIn by
I am
chance?
on LinkedIn, absolutely. So it's just Lauran Hundshamer, and you can absolutely look me up.
All right, guys, we appreciate you guys having this time here with us. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. I'm Ephraim. This is Lauren. We'll catch you on the next one. Latest.